Time is precious, yet we often waste it on what doesn't matter. In today's episode, we will explore the power of urgency. Not frantic busyness, but focused, intentional, action aligned with your purpose. We will discover how urgency paired with clarity can transform your goals into realities, create momentum, and help you make the most of every moment. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start moving forward, this episode is for you. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to our community. I'm Andy Thornton, your host, the president and CEO of the Greater Peoria Family YMCA. And with me today is Kim.
Hello.
Kim, the one and only Kim of I've Decided. Infamous. Straight from China.
Japan.
From Japan. Somewhere overseas.
Yes,
right?
I'm a little jet lagged. Straight from Japan. Yes.
Well, thank you for being here today.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's Christmas.
It's
crazy.
It's a couple weeks before Christmas. I just changed my little board I have at home, and it's 15 days. Mm-hmm. 15 days till Christmas, at least today when we're recording this on Tuesday,
ready?
December 10th. No, not really, but I'm kind of a last minute sense of urgency.
Yeah.
I really don't get a sense of urgency for Christmas shopping until I'm that weekend before a shopper. I just have to be in the spirit and kind of just, I don't love shopping. No. It's not my thing unless I know I hate it. Have something I want intentional to shop for. Right. Yeah. But real close to Christmas, I get in the Christmas spirit, and then I just go out and spend 2 days power shopping. Is kind of how I usually do it.
I never get a sense of urgency for Christmas shopping, Kim.
Yeah, you're like Joe.
Never. I never do. 54 years old and never.
Yep, my husband is the same way.
This year, I don't
shop for things he likes.
And this year, my wife's not going to be either because we're going to Florida. That's
our Christmas. Nice.
We're taking kids to Florida.
Nice,
adult children.
Well, my nephew is getting married, and we are going. Some of our kids, not all of them, we're going to Mississippi for his wedding, and so we're kind of. I've told my daughters, let's just go shopping. Because one daughter won't even be home for Christmas because we won't be getting back until right before.
Yeah.
And then, but we'll have other kids that'll be home that I'll want to shop for. I like stockings. Yeah. I just can't imagine not having the stockings all filled up, even though all of our kids are adults.
I hear you. You sound like my wife.
I know, it's ridiculous.
It doesn't stop.
My 34-year-old stepson, we even fill his stocking, but he loves it. So it's fun.
I like my stockings too. I just don't like filling stockings for others. That's the problem I have.
Where's Santa?
Yeah, I have my wife bought me a few years ago a pair of Christmas pajamas that are the Grinch.
Oh, fun.
So
yeah,
I am in that character now.
Okay, gotcha.
And I blame it on her for buying me the Christmas Grinch pajama. So she created it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to talk this week about the power of urgency.
Yes.
Urgency. So we waste a lot of time, don't we?
A lot, I think, and was the point when in writing this content, is that I feel like we lose the power of urgency because we tend to focus on the wrong things. So people think, well, if I'm hurried and in a rush and have urgency, I'm stressed, right? And I don't want to be stressed. So I got to be careful not to be too, attack things with such a sense of urgency. Yeah. But then there's that fine line balance, and then we kind of get messed up because certain things we need to attack with a sense of urgency, but we tend to focus on the wrong things.
Yeah, and I think it was in your article, I read it somewhere. We tend to mistake busyness for productivity.
Absolutely. I'm busy. I'm so busy. I'm busy.
Right. Because I'm doing all these things, but are those things really important?
But are they?
Are they moving you forward? Are they making you successful, or are you just checking things off a list?
Or finding an excuse not to do the things that you really should do. Because if I'm so busy with all this other stuff, then it gives me an excuse to say, oh, I didn't have time for that. Like exercise, right? I'm get busy doing the
Guilty.
And now, I don't have time to exercise. Yeah. That's just an example. As we sit here with you with the Y and me at Curves, but that, it's sometimes we can use that busyness as an excuse not to do what we should do, which is amazing, isn't it? Yeah. It's kind of funny.
Well, I think though we're comfortable right? I mean, we're comfortable where we are, and maybe the things that we need to do are going to challenge us a little more, and we're just not quite ready for that. So we look for reasons.
Right.
And sometimes it's even subconsciously, I think, that we just allow ourselves to be distracted so that we don't have to tackle that thing that is going to be difficult.
Right. Vacuuming's easy, right? Mindless, but busy. Got to vacuum.
Yeah.
You know?
I struggle. I find myself getting lost in email.
Yeah.
I get so much of it throughout the day, and I don't like unread emails.
Right.
So
Me
if
neither.
I know they're there, I'm like, I got to go clean that up.
Yeah.
And cleaning that up may turn into 60, 90 minutes. Right?
Yes.
Because some things you do have to deal with when you see it. And typically, if I know it, somebody has messaged me, I want to message back. So I get lost.
But you do have to be responsible with your emails. But you've got to delete the ones that are not important and not spend too much time.
But some of those things can be set aside.
Timing.
Go back to them later. They don't. But for somebody like me, and my personality is that I like to take care of it right away. And if I know it's there and I haven't taken care of it, it bugs me. It like eats it in the back of my head. It's like, hey, you got that thing there you got to do.
One of the things that I, just as an example, when it comes to, things like emails, very important. I mean, you are the CEO of the why, you get important emails, I'm sure.
I get a lot of unimportant emails too.
I'm sure you get 10,000 times more unimportant than important, but you still do have to be mindful of your email and have a sense of urgency about it, because you might have someone or something urgent coming through.
That's right.
However, what could be beneficial, and I think we can all learn from this, and I try to do it, but I won't say I'm super great at it, but it is something I'm working towards, is having a certain time, maybe twice a day, that you check your emails, period. So first thing when you get in the morning, right? You check your emails, and then maybe around midday, maybe around 1 or 2 o'clock, you have it on your calendar to check your emails, and you have it blocked out for a half hour, and you check your emails first thing in the morning, right around midday, and that's twice a day. You're getting back with someone within less than 24 hours, and anything that's any more urgent than that, if they don't have your cell phone number to call or text you, I don't think it's,
Yeah, I've heard of that strategy. I've tried to practice it before. I failed.
You have to put it in your calendar,
I know.
And you have to be disciplined. So speaking
I'm
of
at my desk a
discipline,
lot, and if it's sitting right in front of me, right?
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yes.
It's right there. But, the point is, and I think your point's well taken, is you've got to schedule that time. You got to schedule your time appropriately in order to be effective.
Yeah.
Right?
So you don't spend an hour and a half scrolling through emails.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to do that. You got a half hour, you book it through, then you're going to, you don't have to stress about it. You don't have to worry about emails until 6 hours later at 2 p.m. I'm just using an example.
No, you're right.
It's a minimal little example, but you can do that with your exercise. You can do that, with really everything.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between being busy and being productive.
Okay. So, busy is just like what we were just talking about. Your house needs to be clean. Okay. But there are things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. And I'm coming at that from the point of view of most of women are the ones who are taking care of the house. Not always. Men help too. Don't want to label. But in our home, Joe does a lot, but I do most of the cleaning and laundry and things like that.
Sure.
While it is important, it's not life-threatening. And it's certainly... until
you run out of underwear.
Yeah. Exactly. And so we try to make sure that doesn't happen. But if I have a couple loads of laundry, I'm not going to allow that to steal my joy when I know that there are more important things to do. I used to. And I've really learned that there are things. My house does not have to be perfect. It needs to be tidy. I need to know where things are. We need to have clean underwear. So you don't want to let the laundry go for weeks.
Right.
But to have a few loads of laundry is not important. I learned that from Joe's mom. When Joe and I, quick story, this is hilarious. When Joe and I got married, we combined our families and had 7 kids, right? And this was almost 12 years ago, so they were little at the time. And before that, I was a single mom with a couple daughters and very OCD about my house and laundry, never had dirty laundry. And so when we first got married, I'm trying to keep up with the laundry, but
You went from 3 to 9.
Well, right, 7. Well, 9 people, yes, with me and Joe. Danny was older. He really wasn't at home. So technically 8, if we want to be technical, but 8 people.
Yeah.
And 6 of them were children.
Right.
And
half of that laundry is probably not even dirty.
It was so It was so overwhelming. I could not keep up with the laundry. Well, Joe was one of 9, okay, his mom. And I was just whining to her, and I'm like, how did you do it? Like, I don't know how you did it.
Right.
Well, she was a stay-at-home mom for 1, but 2, she was so funny. She goes, do what?
Right.
And I said, keep up with the laundry. Like, I cannot keep up with the laundry. She goes, are you kidding me? You can't worry about that stuff. She said, we had piles of laundry piled up to the ceiling at all times. Mm-hmm. And as the kids got older, I taught them how to do it, and they'd do it, and I'd do it, and we'd all kind of pitch in. But there was always a laundry full of clothes. And I thought, I can never imagine that. That seems terrible. But here's the kicker to this story. We ran into one of Joe's old friends from high school, and they were sharing some stories. And this guy is hilarious. He goes, all I remember is coming home at 2 a.m. in the morning after we'd been out drinking and passing out in the pile of laundry in the laundry room. It cracked me up. I was like, she was not kidding. At first, I kind of thought she was just making me feel better. But then I realized, no, she was serious about that. And that really helped me. At that point, I had to start letting go of some of those OCD tendencies if I was going to be happy and enjoy my family, my newfound big family.
So for our viewers out there, let's give them some practical things to maybe work on or think about as they apply some different strategies to helping themselves. So how do we avoid becoming trapped in that cycle of getting buried in the email or buried in the laundry or whatever it is? And maybe it's multiple things. What can we do to help ourselves kind of get over the hump with that?
Yeah.
Get out of that cycle, set that stuff aside, focus on what's important and what's going to help me be successful.
Well, there's one thing that we all need to recognize, and that is we're either disciplined or we're not. Okay. So if you're disciplined in most things. It doesn't mean we're perfect. It doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, but we're either practicing discipline or we're not. Mm-hmm. And so the key is to practice discipline so that you will be a disciplined person. And one of the ways and strategies to do that, and as cliche as it sounds, but a lot of people still don't to this day, and that is to live by a calendar. And living by a calendar changed my life, literally. And especially with the balancing the things that I have to do with 2 different companies and, my role as a wife and a mom. And so everything is in my calendar, everything. And I plan what I'm going to do. I work my running, I run. And so we plan that out. We talk about it a week in advance. We know what days. For the most part, and while weather might change that a little bit, it's still in the calendar and we adjust. And so literally my entire life is in a calendar, and it makes a huge difference, because if it's not allotted in that time, it's like, okay.
So then it sounds like, and clarify this if I'm wrong, but when you talk about using your calendar, you're planning intentional time to do what's important.
Everything important.
It's not just scheduling the things that happen.
Oh no. I mean, I even, I, for the most part, go to the grocery store on about the same time.
Is that in your calendar?
It's not, because it can be flexible.
Sure.
But just generally speaking, because I live disciplined, I usually go on Saturday, usually sometime on Saturday. But if I don't get there, then it's going to probably be Monday afternoon. But I do try to go on Saturdays and just get that done every week. So, but some weekends don't allow for that, and I have to adjust, but I do not have it in my calendar, because that is one thing that can be flexible. So I find the opportunity, I can squeeze it in anywhere. Vacuuming, I can squeeze in anywhere. Laundry, I can squeeze in anywhere. Right. So the unimportant things I can squeeze in anywhere, but things that are important, I schedule everything that's important. And as far in advance as I can, and I don't change it. That's the kicker. I don't change it. I don't allow someone to go, oh, let's do this. And I go, oh gosh, well, let me try to figure out my schedule. I got to move things around. If I already have something on there, then I'm like, I'd love to, but I've already made this commitment. And unless it's barring something,
well, and that's part of the discipline too, right? You're committed to the work and the goals that you've established for yourself. I think that's even another layer of not allowing yourself to be distracted or pulled away for something that's important.
And it's very important because it can be, I mean, you are an important person to me.
So if it's in your calendar, you've declared it to be important enough for you to be focused on that.
Right.
And that's how you separate it.
Right. And so maybe, something would come up that would sound a lot better than doing a podcast with Andy Thornton.
I'm sure there's lots of things that are better than that.
You know what I mean? Today, like sleep with jet lag right now would feel a lot better, but that's okay. But, somebody could say, oh, there's going to be this amazing event once in a lifetime. And I would maybe think, oh gosh, I wish I could go, but no, I can't. It clearly wasn't meant for me to go because I already have something on my schedule, and I look at it like
that is a different layer of discipline, I think, than it's more than just use the calendar. It's use the calendar effectively.
Stick with the things that you made and don't,
use it for the things that you declare to be important, and then don't stray away.
But people like to think that something better might come up, so they attentively think they might do things, and they don't put it in their calendar. And next thing you know, they've double booked themselves. Yeah. Then now they're having to let somebody down to do something else, and it's a vicious cycle, and it's not good. It doesn't make you feel good, and it certainly doesn't make the people who are counting on you feel good. No. Because let me tell you, when you cancel on people, they do think, I wonder what was more important, and it just gives people, I try not to give, I mean, it happens. Don't get me wrong. Sure. We're all, you're busy. We're busy. We're all busy. And something comes up. I mean, sometimes my daughter forgets to tell me she has a recital and that's important.
Yeah.
And
you gotta make time for that.
So if at all possible, but there have been times where I said, oh, I cannot change what I have on my calendar, honey. I'm not going to be able to be there. I'm so sorry. So there are times where I've had to do that, but I try not to when it comes to the kids. But anyway.
So I think that leads us into the next kind of section of the article that you wrote. Let's talk about aligning the urgency with our purpose.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What does that look like? So how do you line that up? How do you make sure that those things are focused?
Yes. Well, for me, you put the first things first, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the relationship that I have with God. Okay. And my prayer and my study and that time is the first thing. And so I ask God, where am I on the right track? Show me what I need to do differently. Okay. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed in this area. Is there something I need to change? Mm-hmm. So I ask, in my prayers to the Lord to tell me, to show me. And it's not like, oh, all of a sudden I get a laundry list of, here, Kim, you should be doing this and not doing that. Wouldn't that be awesome?
No, it's not that.
I even have those conversations with God all the time. I'm like, could you please just tell me what to do? I'll do anything you ask me to do. Just
give me a sign.
Just tell me it's you. But obviously, that's not how he works, at least not in my life. Although I have had that happen. I have had clear understanding. Okay. But in general, it's not how he typically works in my life. Generally, I have to maneuver through it and think through it and use my brain he gave me. And but in time, as I pray and think things through, I get clear answers of how I need to manage my time and what I need to do differently.
Right. And now you're talking about the discernment part, right?
Yes.
Which you touched on in your article too, which I think is really, really important. And so discernment it's the ability to choose between truth and what's right versus what's not truth.
What feels good.
What's false and what's wrong or what just might feel good. And you're talking about it from the spiritual perspective, right? Is having that alignment with God. And I think that's extremely important because urgency tends to make us think we got to do something quickly.
Right.
That's the definition of it, right? Is there's something that has to be done quickly but discernment means, you got to really take the time to understand whether or not it's the right thing you're going to do. So they're kind of counterintuitive, right? They work against each other a little bit, but they're both equally important, I would say. So let's talk about how do you develop the discernment? Because that's an important part.
Yeah, well, that's why in our community, and I decided we set goals every month. We meet on the first Tuesday of every month, and we set our goals for the month, and we share them out loud within the community, and we get feedback from each other. And so first and foremost, you got to know where you're going.
Right.
You've got to have an understanding of what it is you want to, what you want to accomplish, right? And how are you going to do that? So, and those shift. I mean, it's fluid, right? You have to change because all of a sudden things shift. Things shifted with me at Curves. We have a new CEO and president. Her name is Kim McQueen. We have a different vision. She's investing in our marketing. And so now things have shifted for me at Curves and the priorities and the goals. So now I had to factor that in and start to factor in the important urgency in that and the importance of that. And so it's about understanding what it is you want and how are you going to get that, right? If you want to be healthy, then you have to factor in exercise and good food, but you got to put that in. If you want to grow your business, for example, then you've got to factor in the efforts that it's going to take to make that happen. When are you going to how are you going to make the phone calls? How are you going to set the appointments, training new employees, making sure you have staff, those kinds of things. And those become urgent. Yeah. And it's aligning in your purpose. And sometimes people are like, well, I don't even know if I'm working in my purpose. And, I think, I don't know if I talked about it in this article specifically, but I've talked about it in plenty of articles that I put out there, is that, you can align your purpose wherever you are and whatever you're doing, because typically your purpose doesn't change. You could have the skills of leadership, right? Teaching, coaching, the gift of motivation, encouragement, which is my gifts. I can do that wherever I'm at. Right. So where you start where you are with what you have, right? And you start there. You don't worry about trying to go, oh gosh, I have to change my whole life upside down because I'm not really feeling like I'm working in my purpose. Your purpose is aligning with who you are in Christ. Like what gifts did God give you? What are your talents? Are you putting them to use where you are? Are your actions aligning with what you should be doing? Right. You can do that wherever you are and with what you're doing.
But I think a lot of people struggle with that, right? And you've alluded to it just in some of the things that you've said is they're not sure whether or not this thing is what they're supposed to be pursuing or what they're supposed to be doing. And I think that causes anxiety for people. I think it causes frustration. It creates a distraction in some sense because you're questioning whether or not you're doing it. And I think the discernment piece is an important part. And for me, the spiritual discernment comes from, having a relationship with Christ, leaning into that relationship, making sure that I'm having conversation, with my God, making sure that I'm in prayer, making sure I'm reading his word, because sometimes it doesn't matter what the scripture is. Sometimes he speaks to you through that, right? Or makes you've maybe read a scripture or a passage in the Bible 20 times, 30 times, whatever. But this one time when you're going through this thing, it speaks to you a little bit differently.
Every time,
right?
It's
helps
amazing.
Give you that guidance. But I think that's really, really important. And there's one thing in your article that I'll take you to task on is you said take a moment and reflect. Sometimes reflection is longer
than a
moment, right? Because you were talking about it in the framework of this discernment, And sometimes it does take a little bit of time.
It takes time. It does. And you have to be patient with yourself. Wait on the Lord, right? Wait on it.
Right.
Which means if you don't know what
don't allow that to be an excuse.
Right. If you don't know what to do, just wait a little bit. You don't have to, it's that sense of urgency. If I don't know what to do, I'm not going to hopefully just do stuff that I'm not sure, right? I'm going to wait a little bit. But sometimes this is where I've decided comes in, having that decided mindset. Sometimes God is just waiting on us to decide. Yeah. And then everything starts to shift, because sometimes you have to take a leap of faith.
Exactly.
Sometimes you have to say, I feel like this is the right thing, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just going to go for it because God hasn't told me not to. It's nothing wrong with what I'm doing, and it aligns with who I am. Right. So I'm just going to kind of go for it. And sometimes you have to do that, and then all of a sudden, everything starts to kind of work in your favor. Right. And sometimes the door shuts, and then it's like, okay, that wasn't.
See, that's the thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be successful in order for it to be productive.
No, it needs to be aligned with what you should be doing.
Right.
So for me, and you too, we're brothers and sisters in Christ. Mm-hmm. So we know that our Father God will reprimand us when we're not doing what we should be doing. And the Holy Spirit does that, right? That's God living in us. Mm-hmm. Jesus is the Holy Spirit in us. And so we know when we are procrastination. Mm-hmm. Let's take procrastination, for example. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to work with a sense of urgency in your purpose if you procrastinate. So you have to take every opportunity to take care of things when they need to be taken care of. So just another example of just getting back from being in Japan. I got home late on Monday night, but I didn't really have the opportunities to procrastinate. Like I knew I have like a couple of days before I'm leaving town again for my nephew's his wedding, right. Very important, for my nephew's wedding. And I could not procrastinate unpacking and getting laundry going. Mm-hmm. So I did that immediately. As soon as I got home last night, I wanted to just leave it.
But you can't because you're.
You
have to be prepared.
There was a sense of urgency, and I knew there's clothes in there that are dirty that I need. And so I need to take care of that right away. Right. So, there's the opportunity right then and there, or there's the choice to procrastinate. Now, I could have easily procrastinated, and sometimes I do, not often because I have learned to not, because I practice discipline. Right. And anyone who practices discipline on a regular basis will procrastinate less and less. Yeah. But there have been times in my life where I've been a procrastinator, and there's still times where I fall short. But for the most part, if I see an opportunity to get something done that needs to be done, that might not be super important, but it does need to get done, I do it right then and there. Right. And then that's helpful. And that lets me know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's success. Right. Because I already had the laundry going. I was able to change it over this morning. So then you feel like, yay, I did it. Right. And that feels successful. Right. And it's just laundry.
Gives you momentum, though.
Yeah, and it gives you momentum
to do the next thing.
Things.
And I think that's really important. But yeah, I think the leap of faith thing is an important piece that we could spend a lot of time on.
Yes.
Because we tend to allow that to, I think, some people, and I'm guilty of this, of the lack of confidence in taking a step in a certain direction. We allow that to maybe become a distraction, right? Or we allow ourselves to be distracted from doing it, where we do need to take the leap of faith, right? And if we're taking the leap of faith and trusting God in the right mindset, whether it's successful or not, it's going to be successful because we're going to learn something through that experience. Right? We're going to learn that, yes, this is where I should be going, or no, it's not where I should be going. So let's regroup and look at another opportunity.
And sometimes it was yes then, but now it has to be no.
Right. Or it might be yes later.
Or yes later. Exactly. It's all depending on
but you can
how
learn
we need to
something
prioritize.
By taking the leap of faith, whether it ends up being what you thought it was going to be or something completely different. Yeah. And I think that's where sometimes we get lost in the struggle of all of that, is because we're just afraid to take the leap of faith. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know if this is the right
Right.
thing. Well, you're going to find out if you do it.
Yeah, exactly. And so sometimes getting stuck in that is rough too, because you're just not doing anything.
Because I think we're innately afraid to fail.
Yes.
That's just how God created us. We don't like to lose. We don't like to fail. We want to be successful. And when we do fail, we tend to look down upon ourselves, or we think
worry
others
about
will
what
look down
other
on
people,
us.
and that's what holds people back from being excelling.
But the failure is where we grow.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
And it's okay to fail.
It is. It's absolutely
and
okay.
It is totally
as long as you're willing to learn from it.
Yes, it's totally okay to fail. And I feel like maybe, with especially my oldest daughter, I wish I would have helped her see that better, because she has such a sense of everything has to be perfect. I have to be straight A. I have to do everything right, or I'm going to get in trouble. Somebody's going to look at me and not think I'm doing everything the way I'm supposed to be doing. And it's like now she procrastinates a lot. And it's not because she's not capable of doing what she needs to do. It's that she's afraid she's going to fail and somebody's going to be disappointed. Yeah. So instead of taking the leap of faith and going for things, she takes an easier way out, or she procrastinates. Mm-hmm. And
I think there's a lot of people that are struggle.
Yeah, and I don't know how to. It's like, how can we help? If you're struggling with that, the listeners are, and we all do struggle with that. Sure, it's like, at the end of the day, though, it's like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to strike out.
That's right.
You're going to get up and try again. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hit a home run every time.
Right.
And the fact that you get up and try is amazing. Mm-hmm. I used to think that about Katie played softball. I know you have kids that play college sports and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to separate, because we get so excited when they do something so good, right? And we're just like, yeah, that's my kid. Right. And we are proud of them, but I'm just as proud. I was just as proud. I would think to myself, I cannot believe she gets up there and just takes the chance to strike out. Right. I don't know if I could do it, because I have a sense of what other people think. Mm-hmm. And most of the time they strike out. Right. I mean, it's only sometimes that they get a really big hit. They get more strikes than they do hits.
Less likely of getting a hit than it is making
Yes. And it's just like putting yourself up to that plate is just that example. Yeah. You're going to strike out. Right. It's okay. Right. But you're going to hit it every now and then, mm-hmm. And so.
So don't allow the distractions to take you away from what's important and what you need to do, right? Have the courage to step up and try and take that leap of faith for whatever it is that you might be holding yourself back from, mm-hmm. because you're going to learn something through the process regardless. I think that's the kind of the moral of the story for me, is just know that by moving yourself forward, you're going to learn. You're going to grow.
And have a sense of urgency for the things that are important.
Absolutely.
Not the anxiety, stress of staying busy. That is your urgency of, I got to get all this stuff done. I got to check those emails. I got to do this and this mm-hmm. and this. No. But the sense of urgency for what is important. Right. That we should live with that sense of urgency.
But I think you learn that through life experience, mm-hmm. right? By trial and error, some of that. There's some discipline that you can work into mm-hmm. your life. You've talked about that through the whole calendar strategy mm-hmm. with yourself. There's some things, and I think accountability partners can mm-hmm. help you manage that too. I love what you do with I've Decided, because it's a community that shares their goals with mm-hmm. others, and then those others become a support system and accountability system.
Accountability is one of the pieces of the puzzle for success.
And you've got to have that.
And
you can't do it on your own.
No.
That's one of the biggest mistakes I think people made, is they're afraid to share mm-hmm. a little bit. So I've Decided helps people overcome that. I think that's really important. But you got to put it out there, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, you got to be willing to share where you struggle. Mm-hmm. We all have struggles. And so it's hard to do that too, mm-hmm. But that's where the accountability can come in. We all have vices and struggles and things that hold us back, and just putting it out there on the table. And, as the leader, and the coach in the community at I Decided, I try really hard to live out loud, so to speak, to put it all out there. Right. It's like
lead by example, right? Yeah.
To share my struggles and share my weaknesses and share my vices, because I want them to feel safe, mm-hmm. that they can share theirs. It's like, look, I'm telling you, here's
Sure.
me. This is me. This is where I struggle, and this is real.
Yep.
And I'm not going to stand in front of you and try to pretend like I'm something that I'm not, or that I don't make mistakes and fall short. But I want to share that. We don't want to hold it in and keep it secret.
Right. No, I think that's
we want to share. But
great
that's
piece.
Another story for another day, probably too.
This has been good.
I love
Thank
having
you
great
for
conversations.
that. Thank you for
with
staying awake.
I know. I'm like,
I know you're tired.
Whew, it's something. My husband travels all the time, but he's never made it out that jet lag was really that big of a deal. He would be tired, but he never complained or, but maybe I'm just a whiner. I'm whining. I'm a baby about it, but it feels pretty much like I've been hit by a truck today. Like I feel like
but
I've had a 3-day hangover.
Keep you from being here with me.
Oh, no, I would never do. I did, however, though, in all honesty, keep me from running this morning. I was planning on running, and I was like, Kim, you're going to do it no matter what. You're just going to make yourself do it. I had the conversation, and at 4:30 this morning, when I'd been wide awake since 12 and I was finally starting to feel sleepy, I'm like, I'm not going to make it. Yeah. And I did cancel that. So see, it's nothing's perfect, but that's not the end of the world. No. But this was important, and so that's kind of how you do it. It's like you're gonna, but exercise is important too, but it just wasn't this morning.
Sometimes your body needs to rest.
So sometimes you just have to make good decisions and know that, I don't know. I always beat myself up when I mess up. So I feel like if I would have just made myself do it, I probably would feel better right now, honestly. Maybe. I don't know. But I just could not do it. So I didn't. There. But I'm here.
You might have taken a wrong turn and got lost. You were disoriented.
Hopefully my running group would have protected me from that. They said, Kim, this way. They gave me grace. And that's important too.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We won't do this again before. Yes. Any of your Christmas party tonight.
Yes, if it's Tuesday and you guys happen to be watching it on Tuesday, but I don't know. But we'll probably have already had the party by the time they see this. But that's okay.
That's right.
You got lots of parties.
This is recorded. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
No, that's okay. But hey, you never know how quickly we get it out there. But we probably will have had the party by then. But it is planned for today is Tuesday when we're recording that. Which is
Merry Christmas to you,
Merry
Joe,
Christmas
and the family. Safe
to you
travels
and your family.
to Mississippi.
Yes, and we'll be doing this again in January. We'll get it on our calendar now.
Sometimes that's a challenge. We're looking forward to it. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you here next time on Our Community.
Awesome.